I do like that happy opening theme music, by the way.
I know.
It's very nice.
A little polka.
This is the Stubborn German Podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie, joined by the proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company, Mr. Chris Ron.
What it do, nephew?
Who? Have you been rehearsing that?
I have all week.
And also by our producer, Mr. Jared Chasson.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Jared. And we have a very special guest, our friend Bryan Schubert, who is here as the proprietor of the Millpond Brewing Company.
Thanks for having me.
Millpond Brewing
Welcome.
and Incubator.
That's right.
Thanks
on.
for coming, Bryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Before we dive into your life story, there is a little tradition here on the Stubborn German Podcast, which, by the way, does originate from the Stubborn German Brewing Company here in beautiful Waterloo, Illinois. And we've got a fairly packed bar this evening, which is good. Yeah, if you hear people in the background, they are enjoying themselves.
It's kicking.
But our tradition is a little competition that we call the German word of the day, I guess.
That's what it's called, the German word of the day. And today's word is...
Do you know what we're doing here? You know how to play this?
I have not
Okay.
heard about it. Yeah.
So,
Well, first things first. Do you know German? Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Yes, a little bit.
Crap.
man,
I'm assuming we guessed what the word means.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're
you got
ineligible.
and we reveal the meaning at the end of the show.
So now this time the guest has to go last because I want to hear you two first. Okay. Word of the day. That was very soft. Let's try
kick the
again.
volume up there.
Well, okay, it's Zungenbrücker.
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 I feel like Brooker should give it away, but I don't know what Brooker means. So
Yeah, that's why I picked this one.
I bet. Yep.
That's
Let's
okay.
see.
I don't know what Zungen means.
Yeah, I don't
so.
know.
Are these usually beer or brewery related?
No, I don't know.
No? All right.
Maybe, maybe not.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily. Though this time I kind of wonder if it will be. Let's see. I'll go first. Zungenbrücker. I'm going to say man.
Nope, it's not.
It's not man.
Water filter.
Water
Water
filter.
filter.
Okay,
Ooh.
good
Ooh.
good guess.
All right, Zungenbrücker.
Jared says water filter. Kevin?
I'm gonna go out on a big stretch of a
All right.
limb here and say it
These are
means
always fun.
Millpond.
Millpond. Oh, you've heard our show before, Kevin.
Well, I'm just testing to see how true to form these really are.
And Bryan, what is Zungenbrücker? Go ahead.
That was going to be my guess. So
You can have it. You thought of it first.
No.
I mean, I thought Brooker was like a brook with
Yeah, right.
water.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Zungen, I got nothing. But
I'm really killing the airtime here.
It's okay. I'll edit it out.
Go.
it builds suspense. It's very compelling.
Zungenbrücker.
Very compelling.
I have no idea. Let's see. Zungenbrücker, I'm going to guess.
Oh, let's go Zungenbrücker. That's probably
Brecker.
more.
Oh,
Okay.
well, then now
I
we got to
gotta
change
change
my
my-
guess.
Zungenbrücker.
Yeah.
I don't want to lead you down the wrong path
right.
by saying Brook
I
in
want
there.
another try.
Go ahead.
Is that Zungen with a Z?
Did that help you, Bryan?
It did not.
It
Not
can
at all.
literally
I feel
be
like I'm
anything.
failing, and we're barely even recording here.
No.
Zungenbrücker, I'm going to say it. It's got to be. I'm going to guess still some related to a body of water. Maybe it's like the caretaker of. I don't know.
Boy,
like
caretaker. Okay.
community water supply.
All right.
Caretaker of community.
That's really specific,
There
but I
you
like
go.
it.
Water
I like it.
supply. It has been noted. Okay.
That's right. It reminds me, in Chicago, they have a whole division of government known as the Chicago Water Reclamation District Police Force.
really?
Yeah. And,
Wow, police
yeah,
They could have just named it Zungenbrücker.
They
and
could have.
cut out like 4 words.
but
I got busted by the Zungenbrücker last night.
don't turn around. Uh-oh. There's Zungenbrookers in town.
Oh, boy.
All right. So here we are, the Stubborn German Brewing Company, which, as you've gathered by now, is a brewing establishment, but it's not the only one around for sure. And our friend Bryan has his own establishment just up the road in lovely Millpond, Illinois. And how long have you been open now?
Coming up on 2 years. So believe it or not, we opened October 3rd of 2019. So
Wow, that goes by fast.
Cool.
Yeah, it does really fast, especially when about 15, 16 months of that are during a global pandemic. So
Perfect.
You open up conveniently 5 months before that.
Yeah.
Nice work there, buddy.
Yeah. Time is everything, right?
Yes.
How has it been? I don't want to say post-pandemic, but hopefully kind of soon to be post-pandemic. Things coming back for you. Staying busy now?
Yeah, and for us, it's tough to measure because, last year at this time, there were still mitigation restrictions in place. A lot of only outdoor seating at this point. And so things were opening up and not really opening up slowly. The comfort level of consumers with even coming out was a lot different then as it is now. So it's tough to say if this is, what our July is going to look like moving forward, what our June's going to look like moving forward. So it's definitely a lot better than it was last year, but we have no normal, quote-unquote, year to compare to.
You just don't know yet, yeah.
Right.
Well, the great thing is that you're pressing on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the first questions I have is Millpond. It conjures up a giant Zungenbrucker.
That it does, Kevin, that it does.
But
only if the caretaker's around, though.
That's
Right.
right.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Where did the name and the genesis of that come from?
Yeah. Well, we always wanted it. We always wanted the name to have something to do with the community. And Millstadt obviously has strong roots as a farming and milling community. And at one time, Millstadt. Well, first, let me say, any settlement was really lucky to have a mill. Like, it was kind of the center of the universe for all those farming communities. And at one time, Millstadt had 3 mills.
Wow.
And typically a mill, back then, you have a millpond, which is, the water from the millpond, which is a giant reservoir, comes down the mill stream, feeds the mill, turns the wheel, which allows you to turn on the griststone and grind the grain. And so, but all 3 of Millstadt's mills were fed by the same mill pond.
Oh.
And mill ponds were kind of the first de facto city parks. So that's where people went in the summer to fish or to swim, or, in a, German Catholic community like Millstadt, people would go and they would sit on the hill, have picnics after church, things of that sort. Ice skate on the mill pond whenever it froze over, sled on its hill. So it was kind of a community gathering place, and so that's kind of the background name and the kind of the impetus of Millpond. We want it to be a community gathering.
That's really
place.
cool.
Yeah, that's a lot of great thought into that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you do have kind of an affix on that name too of and Incubator.
Yeah.
And first thing you think of is chicken eggs or
Sure.
very young
Yeah, right.
humans trying to stay warm.
I thought he was going to sell like fried eggs or something like that.
Right.
I wasn't really sure, but
Yeah, right. So
I was a little disappointed the first time I went in. It was like, where are the eggs?
Where are the chickens?
or where's my big idea and is it growing? So
Right.
Yeah.
What's the impetus for the Incubator name?
Yeah, so the background of that, or having that as part of the brewery, is that we wanted, really kind of the idea is there, and it kind of was put on pause during the pandemic, but it was one to allow home brewers come in that, wanted to put their beer on tap, allow them the opportunity to either brew the beer with us, put it for sale to the public, and then, have their beer on tap at the brewery and kind of have a test market for it.
That's awesome.
The real thought, or what we're really trying to get to, the main end game, is to identify an aspiring brewery owner like me, 4 years ago, Chris, 6 years ago? What do you even know?
Yeah,
4
yeah,
years?
we've been open 5, so
past
yeah,
5.
So 7 years ago?
6, 7 years, yeah.
Yeah, and allow those individuals to come in, brew at our brewery on a regular basis, and sell their beer to the public. Obviously, they would get some income from that and build up a nest egg so that then they can go out and start their own brewery. So we haven't really, with everything happening with the pandemic, we haven't really had time to, one, identify a brewery, a potential brewery owner. We have one in mind that's been kind of working through some stuff through the pandemic, but that's really kind of the overall goal.
Very cool. So it's kind of an Incubrewer.
Exactly.
Incubator.
Which
So you're not just talking about letting guys have a chance to brew their own beer one time. You're talking about actually helping people start a business, right?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
that is mainly what the Incubator name means. Now,
Yeah.
as part of that, we still, open the door for, home brewers that are interested
Yeah.
to kind of be part of that process. And maybe they decide that they don't want to take it any
Right.
further than, one time or two times. But our real goal is to find an aspiring brewery owner and allow them to use Millpond to grow up a nest egg and go out on their own.
that's
Right.
fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, very altruistic philosophy there. I understand that Chris gave you some amazing advice before you started.
You have to be more specific.
The advice that I said, you don't want to make any money, do you?
You don't really want to open a brewery.
You
do
really want to open a brewery? He didn't listen though. Here he is. He did. That's right. I didn't listen to Dave Johnson at in O'Fallon or Missouri Beer Co.
Well, it turned into a challenge, if anything.
Yeah, for sure.
But that leads into you guys have known each other for quite a while.
Yeah, I started out obviously as home brewing, and then my brother-in-law Jeremy, brought me down to the firm, and Jeremy was a member of the firm from day one, and had kind of been telling me to come, and I think.
I thought you were both at the same time. He was your first?
Yeah, I think the firm did it start in maybe May or something.
No, it started in the fall.
In the fall
of what would that have been? 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think I joined in the spring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so not much further.
Not much further.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So this is interesting to me because now we're talking to two homebrewers who've taken the leap to become professional brewers, open establishments, and do this for a living. Is the firm the secret sauce, that organization? Do you have any others that you know of?
Gosh, well, no big ones like I would say Bryan would be necessarily. There are some professional brewers that go to the meetings, and Brent from Urban Chestnut. There's a handful, but
that's kind of going the other way.
Yeah. But and at any given meeting, you could be sitting next to an owner of a brewery or a brewer that works for some like Urban Chestnut, a great big brewery in St. Louis. You never really know who you're going to sit down next to, especially if you go out of your comfort zone and sit next at a table, or if you get there late and have to sit at a table where you don't know anyone.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
That's kind of how it has worked with me. It's like, well, I guess I'll sit over here. Here's a seat, and hi, who are you? And I own so and oh wow. Well, thanks for coming.
Well, not even only that, but I mean, there's a ton of fantastic homebrewers at the firm.
For sure,
that win a lot of awards that make some fantastic beer.
Yeah, and I don't want to discount that because that's completely true. That you'll sit down and there'll be some very intelligent home brewers that probably could and should have their own brewery, and they just don't. They're quiet and just kind of just want to make some beer and see if everybody likes it or not. And but sometimes they're quiet, and if you don't start talking to them, you don't get any info. You just kind of have to. And beer is the all-time lubricator. So
well, sure. So they're in the Millpond Incubator Farm League at that point.
Yeah, the Farm League. Yeah,
they could be
the Double A. Yeah,
the Firm League, if you will.
The Firm League.
Yeah, right on. So obviously, being a brewing enthusiast yourself, it's all about the beer. So what do you guys do at Millpond?
Yeah, the styles of beer that we make are in specific. Yeah, I think we find ourselves in a kind of pretty natural rotation of making lager beer and then also making various different types of hazy IPAs and pale ales. In the summertime, summertime, we have different styles of sour beer on as well. So we have a few different Gosas that, some are just, regular base style Gosa style ale, and then we also have some fruited style Gosas, and then Berliner Weiss as well. And then obviously when the fall and winter comes around, we do get into stouts, and we actually started our barrel aging program in the middle of February, kind of a year late. We didn't really want to start that during the pandemic, so kind of a year delayed on that, but we have started that, and so we got some of those beers coming out hopefully in the next 6 months or so.
And you have 14 different varieties of pumpkin beer for the fall also, is that right?
Zero
At
pumpkin
least.
beer.
Zero
I just
pumpkin
come
beer.
stubborn German and drink
Right.
pumpkin.
Let Chris
Pumpkin
handle
beer.
that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, in a previous episode of this podcast, we talked about Chris's favorite beer, which is the blueberry wheat here. And the takeaway there is that as a professional brewer, with especially with an establishment like yourself, it's not necessarily about brewing just what you like. You got to respond to the market. So, what are your feedback from your patrons as far as what they dig, and are you brewing something that you're like, I just do this for them?
Is this your way of asking me what beer that we make that I don't like?
Pretty much.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Maybe because it was such a great story for Chris. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I think, like Chris, who's been a longtime home brewer and a judge, and same with myself, and now a professional brewer. There's definitely beer styles that I think every brewer at every level, no matter how big the brewery is, or no matter how small of a home brewer you are, that there are styles of beer you don't like, but you still have to respect those styles, right? And you still appreciate them for what they are. I'm not the biggest Weiss beer fan. We make quite a bit of Weiss beer. It's a very popular beer worldwide. It's a popular beer for us. So I would say that that's not necessarily a style that I gravitate toward. And it seems that a lot of the competitions around in the areas that the main judges or the stewards for those know that I don't like it, but they know
Really?
that I know what a good one tastes like. So I find myself always judging Weiss beer.
Nice.
Well, that's
Isn't
pretty
that
cool. Well, but that's interesting. That obviously you respect the different styles, and you've worked on perfecting those so you brew a good one, and they see that, which is pretty cool. When it comes to the variety of different beers, where does your source of inspiration come?
Yeah, I honestly brewing beer that I like to drink. I think that's kind of how we started off, because it's difficult. I mean, trying to decide what that first menu is going to look like.
For sure.
It's tough. Like, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And even though that I wasn't the biggest Weiss beer fan, Weiss beer is a beer that we had. Ours is called a Zet. It was on our opening day menu, and then with every batch of a Zet we split the batch. So we have our regular base of Zet, and then we fruit the other half. So it's in a rotation of blueberries, and then raspberry, and peaches, and elderberry.
So like I have my blueberry wheat, he literally has the blueberry wheat that he doesn't like either. He's just not as loud about it as I am.
Nice. And so it kind of started out with making beers that I like, making sure that we also had Millstad is in an introductory craft beer market, I would say, and I think that but at that same token, the question that I get the most is, what's the most surprising thing about opening up Millpond is how many craft beer enthusiasts there are that close to the area. So, we have introductory craft beers like the Stott, which is an American Pilsner, nice, light, crisp,
delicious
high carbonated.
beer.
Thank you.
Love it.
So, and then, after that, it was, making sure we had a nice selection of lager beer, which I love to drink. And I also love to drink, hazy IPAs and pale ales. So, we have a pretty good rotation of those.
That's cool.
Check out his Shift Beer and what's the hell is the Bridge Lane? Bridge Lane, yeah.
Bridge Lane.
Yeah, both of those are outstanding. Yeah. Lawrence is great. I dug one of those cans out from the last time we got together just last week. I was like, oh, I got one more. Look at that. And still good.
Well, you've touched on a couple of words here, and a concept that I want to get away from is that we've heard Chris's story about transitioning from a home brewer to a larger quantity. How did you get there?
As far as ramping up recipes, or
making beer available for sale every day as opposed to home consumption in the garage.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we learned on our system. Going from a system that I used for 9 years, and I had a lot of those recipes kind of dialed in and how I like them. Bring up Shift Beer, Dortmunder. I started brewing Dortmunder because I love the style, and it's really kind of impossible to find around here. Great Lakes makes a a great Dortmunder, but up until recently, you couldn't buy it around here at all.
Right.
Yeah, and so I started making one as a home brewer because I really like Dortmunder, and I wanted to drink it, and that beer became shift beer. So at the brewery, but I think one of the things that we
real quick, tell the story of what is a shift beer. If you don't work at a brewery, you probably may not know.
Yeah. So a Dortmunder style, obviously originated in the Dortmund area of Germany. So it's got a very unique water profile. It's really heavy mineral. It probably has the most mineral additions of any beer that we make, and so it will finish maybe like slightly bitter, but it will kind of have like a little minerally quality, on the finish of the beer. It's kind of like a light, or I would say like a deep gold lager color, but still smooth, still crisp, but it does have kind of that minerally finish that is kind of a major trait of the style.
And then even the name shift beer, like at the end of your shift, either bartending or working in the brewery all day, usually a brewery will offer their employees one free shift beer at the end of your shift. So what's your shift beer going to be? And so that's kind of a nod to, like, I guess that's what everyone goes toward. That's kind of like our alt beer here. It's everyone drinks the alt beer here after their shift.
And it's exactly like that's kind of a dual meaning. The miners in the Dortmund region of Germany would get off their long 12-hour shifts in the mine, right? And they would go to the bar, and what did they make in Dortmund? They made Dortmunder, right? And so it was their shift beer. So it's kind of the idea of, it was those miners' shift beer, and so
it was their shift beer and your shift beer. Got it.
Yeah,
That's
interesting.
Awesome.
Which is different from a bar I used to go to in college, where the shift beer equivalent would have been a mat shot. This is everything that's spilled in the mat that's left over. You can have that.
The mat shot.
Well, that's pretty wild that you are profiling the water to get the mineral content similar. How do you go about that?
I mean, excuse me. There's kind of like a general accepted water profile for all these different areas that you could, with a little bit of research, you can kind of find. Like, whenever we make shift beer, we follow the Dortmund water profile, so you can actually get the water profile of where all those different mineral levels are at, and then for us, we can either start with just carbon filter water at the brewery, and we know what our water profile is from just our city water, or we can start with reverse osmosis water, RO water, and then we build the profile up with that by adding different salts to it.
So that's primarily what you're adding is salts and
little powders, and like literally salt. Table salt is one of them, and there's 4 or 5 that you use a lot of, and
wow.
And it's really, if you want to get really close or really try to mimic those styles of those regions as best as possible. I think it can. I think you can still make good Dortmunder without it, but I think that kind of brings that. It elevates that style a little bit more, right? Staying kind of true to the area which those beers are actually made.
Sure. Well, it demonstrates what you and what Chris can do also by having a lot of control over a smaller production run. You can, and here's where I think the word craft really applies, because you can craft everything from the ice, the glass, the water, the beer recipe, and really make it as authentic as you can or want, as opposed to worrying about pushing 30,000 gallons through today.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think that also there's some very, very popular water profiles, like obviously the water from Pils in Germany, right, make Pilsner beer, right? The water profile from Dortmund to make Dortmunder, from to make an Irish stout, using the Dublin water profile is important to kind of get the types of flavors that you want, or get as close as you can to mimicking something like what they use at Guinness. So, but yeah, we do have that flexibility. We can control that with each batch, and it does take some time to kind of hone those in, but I think it's worth it.
Now, do you have a source for, authentic Dortmunder to compare yours to?
Like I said before, nobody makes Dortmund. I mean, like you get stuff to find. So.
I mean, so how do you know you liked it if you didn't have it?
And the one that it is or was or whatever commercially available, I think they're in cans now, but they used to just be in a green glass bottle. Which, if you're drinking beer out of a green bottle that came from Germany, it tastes like a skunk at this point.
It's different, for sure.
So it's like that's not what they're drinking out of a keg in a pub in Dortmund. No way,
right.
Right. But a lot of that just comes down to your ability to judge from a sensory perspective, right? There's an accepted aroma, flavor, finish, profile for every beer, and so just by brewing the beer, tasting it, is it within spec? Is it within that accepted range of what a Dortmunder or what a Helles should taste like, or for if it's a German Pils or if it's a Czech Pils, right? Using all those different water profiles, sensory prevails. So you taste it. If it's not there, then you make a few tweaks and, you brew it again.
That's really cool.
Keep brewing.
That's right. So the other word that you used a couple times is cans, and I see your beer is in cans. How did that come about?
The pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to be short, but really, when the pandemic hit and when the first announcement came of the mitigation restrictions, we were really just draft and growler fills only. And, to try to make it, honestly easier to come in and buy Millpond beer, we needed to find a way to get beer in the can. So, for a while there, we had a single manual, we had a single head manual seamer that we seamed about 8,000 cans on. Yeah. And so it was just, we just really couldn't keep up with the way things were going. And we just knew that even as, the mitigation restrictions sort of lightened, we weren't going to be able to get away from having cans. So,
well, I mean, hopefully people liked it and bought them, so there's demand.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was. And we just, we couldn't keep up, so then we started reaching out to mobile canners, and, that's what we do now.
Excellent. Very interesting.
Which is similar to you, Chris, right? You weren't necessarily planning on canning your beer.
Correct, yeah. My story is exactly the same as him, right. And I guess the only difference is at the very end, I ordered a canner to do it in-house, where I think he's still using the mobile canner. So, but Bryan was kind enough to bring a couple cans of beer for us to sample, and he happened to bring his Munich Helles Bridge Lane, which I've had before, and it's a delicious beer. I haven't had this batch, but I had it last year. Or I guess, I don't know,
spring maybe.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
It's really good, and I just put my Helles Main Street Helles on tap. So the exact same style. So Jared and I are both rocking the same, and Bryan too, the same style of beer, but just with the different brewery. Right. So it's kind of fun. It's always fun to do a side by side and let's see where I failed.
This is very good. I dig it. Yeah. I like the imagery of your can. It's very, very clean.
It's real good.
And it's interesting. So the look of your can, does this have any corresponding attributes to the look of your facility? Because your facility is killer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so all of our labels that we make actually mimic tables that are in the brewery. So so one of the looks that I really wanted to have when we opened up a brewery was to have river tables. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, you kind of take two slabs of wood, plane them down, flip them to where the live edge with the outside of the tree essentially faces each other, and then you fill that void with epoxy resin, and then you color them different colors. And so each of our labels, like we have a river for lagers, we have a river for hazy beer, we have a river for sour, for stouts. So, but you'll notice that they're slightly different. It's each style, or I guess like lager has a table, hazy beer has a table, stouts have a table, sours have a table, and then we just kind of slide, or not we, but the individual Tim Botchin that does all of our art just kind of slides, the label across that table to pick up a different section on the table. Yeah. And then he
that's cool.
And then he colors each of them a little bit different. So
I was telling Kevin and Bryan before the podcast that I really like these cans. I mean, we just had an episode recently where we talked about all the artwork and the cans for Stubborn, and I love those too and how different they all are. There's a very consistent theme with your cans, and it's very classy. It looks great.
They're clean.
It is very clean. I love them.
Yeah. Here's the beer.
They look legit, for sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I didn't realize that when I go there, if I order an IPA, I have to go sit at the IPA table. Like, you just go sit with whoever's there, I guess, and
That's it,
everyone
yeah.
there is drinking IPA.
It's just like the
Once you
firm
sit at the
meeting.
table, you're like, oh, sorry, we only serve lager at this table. This is
And that's really
table.
fun. I just didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah.
All right, gives me another reason to go.
If I go there, they'll make me stand outside. But hey, that's not a bad thing because you guys have a beer garden of sorts, right?
Look at that
Yeah.
segue. Wow.
I'm telling you.
We do. Yeah, we have a very a pretty large beer garden. Seats about 80 people.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and so it's actually. Well, I guess it's actually a portion of the old yard that was there for our building. So our building is an old service station.
Yep.
So we kind of moved the fence back so we could actually have a front door, and then where we now have our beer garden is the old yard from the service station that was there.
Now, I remember that facility long before you guys moved into it, driving past that, and it was not functioning anymore, but it was an old service station, and that's my world. I really dig, I'm in the automotive side of things, but I love to see the old gas stations and, roadside Americana. And that facility is awesome because it has like glazed stones and they curve. It's almost a little Art Deco type style.
Yep.
When was that built,
Yeah, so it was built by the original owners. So they built the building, started in 1943, and they finished in 45.
Yeah, so it's right
old.
there. Yeah.
And before we opened, it was, the previous owners actually used it for personal use, but it was essentially abandoned to the public for close to 40 years.
And you got a cool story about your father in there, too, right?
Yeah, so my dad used to work at that service station.
Wow.
Yeah, when he was
Right
a kid.
on.
Can't make that up.
Yeah, when he was like 16. Yeah.
Now, do you know what the name of the station was? Whose was it?
Well, locally, it was known as the Hildebrands service station, and Donnie Hildebrand actually owned it up until we had tried to buy it, but he owned it up until 2018. He actually sold it to an individual that owns a local construction company, Mike Mittendorf. He's from Waterloo.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I had heard that he sold it to Mike, I reached out to Mike. I told him I wanted to buy the building. He asked me what I wanted to do. I said I want to open a brewery. He was going to move his office into there, and the conversation went. He's like, "Well, give me a couple of days. I need a couple of days to think about this." I think he did some following up on me, with my uncle, just to make sure that I was a man of my word, that I was going to, put a brewery in there. He called me back, gave me a price. I accepted on the spot. And then he started kind of taking all the stuff out, and we closed on the building February of 19 and opened in October of 19.
Man, that's killer.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed the big garage doors, as you would expect at a service station. Are those functional, and did that kind of help with the pandemic where you were allowed to be open if you had open doors and all that stuff?
Yeah, it did. And each one of the openings that are garage doors now were garage doors, so we didn't add any garage doors. Excuse me. And except for where our front door was a garage door, but we replaced that with a storefront.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, it's a very nice open space, and when it's really, really nice outside, we'll open the garage doors in the back, open the one that's on the side by the bar, and it's kind of has a nice open air sort of feeling to it.
It's kind of the hip thing to do these days, yet you guys had it built right into the facility, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for real.
For sure.
So, what should somebody expect when they go attend the Millpond Brewing Company?
Should expect? Well, I guess, kind of going back to the types of beer that we have on tap. We typically release new beer about every 2 weeks or so. Mm-hmm. And that's really more because we need to get on the canning schedule for a Mulligan. We don't have the convenience of, being able to can at will. Hopefully, talk to another canning company today, so maybe that'll come soon. Yeah.
Nice.
So as far as expectations, you can always expect the Stott and a Zet and a fruited Zet to be on tap, and then usually about 4 to 5 lagers or so.
And weights and measures.
Weights and measures is coming back. We're brewing it in August.
All right.
And
I can't wait that long.
Tell me what weights and measures is all about.
I had to do some bargaining with my wife to be able to brew that beer again.
So I think weights and measures is kind of him and his wife's version of Tammy and I's alt beer, where it's not the fastest mover. It's it's not the sexiest beer style or name or anything at all.
Yeah.
But it's just a delicious beer.
Nice.
I love weights and measures. I
did too.
I love lager beer and I love hazy beer too. But the weights and measures is it's an ordinary bitter is the style name. It's really more of just an English pub ale. So. Funny story about weights and measures is that when we opened with it, I put ordinary bitter on the menu, and my wife is like, you have to. My wife's name is Lizzie, and she's wonderful, but she's like, you have to change it. Nobody's going to buy it. It's called ordinary bitter. And I said, well, that's the style name. That's what it's called. It's an ordinary bitter. She's like, nobody's going to buy it.
Nobody knows that. Yeah.
And it crept out the door, but if you talk to people about what an ordinary bitter is, and they taste, they're like, oh, it's not bitter at all. I'm like, yeah, I know. Why do they call it an ordinary bitter? It's just how the English name their beers.
It's just what they do.
It's just what they do.
So
you get people that taste it and they love it. So as soon as I changed it to English pub ale on the menu, then it was like flew out the door. And
there you go.
I want that pub ale. Yeah.
That's right. Where's my chips?
Bring on the pub ale.
So it's going to come back because it's by far one of my favorite beers that we make, and it's a it's a nice malty, not bitter. Not bitter beer, really low ABV, so it's under 4.
Easy drinker.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a few,
all day
still
beer.
drive home.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And, going back to, having, putting beers on tap that you like to drink, I started making weights and measures or ordinary bitter when I was a home brewer because, I really like to drink beer, and it's really tough to drink 7% hazy IPAs all the time, right? Or, even some of the, a beer like Shift Beer that's like a 5.7 Dortmunder. So it's really nice to be able to have a beer that's low ABV that you can have quite a few of them on a Tuesday.
Yeah, enjoy the day.
It. Yeah,
for sure. So getting back to kind of the expectations, as I look across the bar here at Stubborn.
Sorry, I didn't answer a question.
It's not an easy one.
Getting back to my question.
No. There's more to it. As I look across the bar right now, I see a gentleman with a Shorty's Smokehouse T-shirt on, which is the barbecue place next door to the Stubborn. Stubborn doesn't have food. How is is there a food situation at your facility?
Yeah, we typically have food trucks every Friday and Saturday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so have a pretty good rotation of food trucks, like we have a Cajun truck that comes often, a Crooked Boot, a burger truck, Burgers STL.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
the Cajun truck was killer the last time I was in.
Yeah, Cece,
awesome stuff.
she does an awesome job.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah.
Huh.
We have a Cuban food truck, Havana's Cuisine. Comes there quite a bit. Blues Fired Pizza. Clara B's Kitchen, which is kind of like a more of, I would say, like home style, more feel good food, and they do a really, really good job. We have a taco truck from Belleville called the Truckeria de Valle. It comes off.
That's the one I was wanting to go to next.
Yeah.
When are they back?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll check your website.
Check out the website.
I will check the website, which is
millpondbrewing.com.
Bingo.
And you can also check out our Facebook page. The events section of our Facebook page
there we go.
Has our food truck schedule on it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and any live music that we have at the brewery on there as well.
I'm going to have to check out the Cuban. When I lived in Southern California, there was, 3 or 4, I don't want to call it a chain, but 3 or 4 restaurants called Versailles, which was a Cuban restaurant named after a French palace, which I thought I never made the connection.
Okay.
But the barbecue was unbelievable. It was like a heavy sauce, a lot of sauce barbecued, not smoked or rubbed, and it was very good. So I'll have to check that out. Now, when you schedule food trucks, is there like a central repository of food truck scheduling? I mean, What do you do?
No, well, initially we started reading it before we opened. We started reaching out, and it's tough. Like you understand, like I mean, food trucks are a business. They're just they're a nomadic business,
right?
But so it was really tough. Like it was really tough for them at first to kind of commit to coming to the brewery because they didn't know what the expectations were. And I know,
which is why I asked.
Yeah, and so for at the beginning of it, it was kind of tough to convince a few of them to come there. But then you get a few of them to come there, and you realize they see the support that they get, and they're busy, and then the word kind of gets out, and then it kind of like goes over this arc of begging food trucks to get there. And then food trucks asking you if they can come there.
Nice.
And then,
That's
so,
cool.
But it's...
Pretty soon a food truck traffic jam in the parking lot, on their own.
We don't need 4 food trucks
today.
Just one.
It's Thursday.
So we've covered the beer and the food options. Do you have liquor there as well, or is it purely a beer bar?
Yeah, we do. We have liquor, wine, some bourbon. Not quite the stubborn German selection.
Don't sell yourself short there, bud. You got a good bourbon selection.
We do have a good bourbon selection.
I like it a lot.
It's
I've had a couple there.
Yeah, not as bad, but yeah, we have a pretty nice bourbon selection. Not as many options, but I think we got some really, really
very quality,
solid options
for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wine, but then we also have, we got Stumpies. We have some other wine options as well.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So I'm fascinated by, and I'd kind of like to hear Chris and Bryan both talk to this. So in the craft brewer society or club or whatever, there seems to be a lot of camaraderie as opposed to competition, right? Everybody's sort of teammates. I mean, we've got 2 craft brewers across the street from each other here in Waterloo, and so it seems like you guys have that relationship where you're friends, you work together, you maybe even give each other tips and stuff, whatever, as opposed to like you're trying to get each other's business from each other. And that's a thing in craft brewers, right? Is this sort of teamwork.
Yeah. Well, and as far as Bryan and I specifically, I mean, we were friends first before we were, quote unquote, competitors. So, it's only natural that, my friend's going to go do the same thing that I do for a living. Now we're even closer friends, like that, and why wouldn't it be? So, Bryan opens a brewery in Millpond, like his hometown, like that's what I did, and I'm not trying to be Millpond's brewery or Redbud's brewery or Valmeyer's. I'm Waterloo's brewery, so I'm half of Waterloo's breweries, I guess. But you know what I mean. So that's not a competition thing. I don't look at it that way anyway. So some other breweries may, and I can't think of any that do, but the St. Louis area is the entire St. Louis area. I really can't think of anybody that has an issue with another brewery or whatever. I mean, there's a handful of little minor spats here and there, but you'll have that anywhere.
That's funny because Bryan told me he was going to bury you.
Oh my God! Did you really?
This time next year, Chris.
Podcast over.
I did not say that.
The Millpond Brewing podcast.
You guys recording there tomorrow?
We did yesterday.
Oh, I'm crushed.
It's called the Shift Cast.
That's awesome.
Hosted by the Dorkmunder.
The Dorkmunders.
No, but you're right. That is a great parallel because it's not only is it because you guys are buddies and have kind of a parallel universe, but it's smart business, because somebody can't be at all establishments at the same time.
Yeah, and I can't make enough. I can't make enough beer to serve a quarter of Waterloo's craft beer drinkers, let alone a half of them, or even an entire all of. Then that's just Waterloo. Mm-hmm. So let alone go to Monroe County, then go to he's in St. Clair County and go bigger, just to make that map even bigger. I can't do all that.
Yeah, I mean, even
not with that attitude, Chris.
Very true.
You can do it.
I'll try harder.
Well, I mean, even thinking about how we talk about how many breweries there are in the United States and how the craft movement, and that's been going on for a while. But looking at a country like Germany and how long beer brewing has been going on there, and if you go to a town, and I'm going to use Grossbiberau because which is in Hessen, which is the sister city for Millstadt, they have a brewery. you go to the town 5 miles away, they have a brewery. So when you're in that town, you drink that town's beer, right? And you go 5 miles away, 10 miles away, you drink that town's beer. You're not drinking, you're not drinking beer from Bad Hana if you're in Gross Biberau, right? You're drinking Gross Biberau beer. If you're in Bad Hana, you're drinking Bad Hana beer, right? And so,
well, there it's the local brewery is it's like a utility. It's like a service.
That's right.
It's a water company.
It's almost like a Millpond, like a gathering place.
Almost.
Nice.
Wow. And we should stop right there.
Almost.
Almost.
I have a little
That's
bit more
funny.
to ask here. I'm curious about all this. So I've heard the story with Chris growing up in Waterloo and how the town of Waterloo really embraced this establishment. What was it like in Millstone?
I can't say enough good things. I mean, it's, from not only them really, really wanting to have a brewery there and, we had to, work some things out to be able to make the brewery happen, but then also, opening up 5 months, having 5 months and then the pandemic hitting. The local support is, I knew it would be there, but I honestly it's on another level, and I hate to get emotional about it, but I mean opening up and then the pandemic hitting and 5 months and local support that we got was pretty unbelievable, and I knew it would be there because my dad had the butcher shop in Millstadt for 38 years before they ended up selling it, but it was overwhelming.
Yeah, and I understand that 100% because, you put your livelihood, you put your life on the line. I don't know about you, but I cashed in every red cent that I had and then some to do this, and I'm sure it was the same way with you, and then all of a sudden, things, for us, things were going nice and smooth, we're doing good, okay, and then bam, it's like, you don't know what's happening tomorrow or if you're going to be open, and we weren't for a while, and,
It was way scary.
Too scary.
Yeah.
Well, just crazy.
And you brought that up, but anybody from around here who hears the name Schubert knows Schubert's Meat Market. And even though you said they sold that, I imagine you had to just get a lot of support from people that couldn't wait to see what's the next local business that a Schubert is opening. Because everybody loves Schubert's meat. So.
Yeah, and I just even think outside of that, just the local craft consumer that we have in Millstadt, and then also we get a lot of support from Belleville and kind of those areas around there. Just the support from people that, may have known that my dad owned the butcher shop there, or that people that didn't even know about it. It was just kind of the support that we got because we were a local brewery, and they enjoyed drinking our beer, and they knew that during that time we probably needed a little bit extra help. So,
well, and living in a thirsty town, just like Waterloo, the people like to drink beer here, and that's a great thing, especially when you brew a good beer.
Yeah,
and this is a good beer, by the way. This Munich Helles.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It was very good.
It's very good. Yeah, thanks for bringing that.
You mentioned the events tab on the website. Do you guys do any other event kind of stuff, entertainment? What's going on?
Yeah, we have bands every so often. We're kind of on a rotation now of maybe 2 different live acts every month, usually on Friday, Saturday, kind of depending on when we can get them. So we used to have them a lot more often, but we decided to kind of back down on them a little bit, and probably about like I said, about twice a month. I don't think we have any left for the rest of this month, but the first week in August, and then I believe the middle of August.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Right on. Well, this has been a really cool profile, and it's great to hear your story. I love the fact that it has all those elements of hometown guy doing well. Like to see that, and it wouldn't be if you didn't make good stuff, because the town's only going to support you so much.
Yeah.
But to get them to come back a second time, that means you guys are doing something right. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and he wouldn't have made the podcast rotation if he didn't make good beer.
The circuit.
Fair.
Chris has high standards here for the podcast.
Bring good beer.
Yeah.
That's right. You can even bring mediocre beer and probably get on the podcast.
That's true, 100%. Actually,
Well, this was really great, Brian. I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
And sharing the Millpond story.
it
However,
was fun.
all of our listeners are turning blue, waiting to hear the correct answer to the
are
German
they?
word of the day.
All right.
We all got, but I think I
So-
wanted to change my.
Oh, you're going to change yours? Okay.
No, I can't.
Oh,
I
you
know
can't. Well,
are there
I mean,
rules?
I could. There are no rules,
The
actually.
pronunciation affected his answer there.
it's-
So.
well-
I forgot what I was going to change it to.
Maybe this will jog your memory. So the word of the day was Zungenbrecher. And Zungenbrecher, Jared guessed, meant a water filter. Something liquidy. Okay. Kevin said it means Millpond. Boring guess. Kevin's on a roll of just guessing
Obvious.
whatever the
Yeah.
theme is, that it's just that, because I did it one time. And Bryan got super specific and guessed caretaker of the community water supply. So all water.
Somebody's gotta do it.
Zungenbrecher actually means it's a tongue twister.
Oh my
Tongue
god!
twister.
Zungenbrecher.
Zungen's a tongue?
Zungen
Chris
must
changed
be
things up
tongue,
this time.
and Brecker is a twister.
It's
I
safe
don't
to
know.
say that I was the closest, I think.
For sure.
Well,
Without
you
a
had the
doubt.
most words on your
Tongue
answer,
twister.
so I'm going to give it to you. Yeah, and you're the guest, and you brought
Yeah.
beer. These two
Right.
didn't. So
you win.
Yeah.
You know, in all of the difficult words I've tried to pronounce, none of them have twisted my tongue. I'm reflecting.
like none of them.
I don't think. I mean,
Yeah,
what word is that?
I mean, given that, you would think that Zungenbrecher would be tougher to pronounce if it means tongue twister.
Right.
See, I thought so too, and that's kind of why I went, because some of them are really hard to pronounce, and I still have to be able to kind of say them.
He
Yeah,
avoids
especially
those
Especially
words.
when the Google thing didn't work.
The phone doesn't work. Yeah.
No, it was Google, not my phone.
Exactly.
It's Google's fault. Not
User
me
error.
not being able to press a button. Come on.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks again for joining us. This was a nice trip. We recommend everybody go check out the Millpond Brewing Company and Incubator over, and that's what I thought it was going to be. Some sort of
Incubator.
Oh, that jogs your
Oh,
see?
something incubator wise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Egg warmer.
right.
Maybe next episode.
Next time, yeah. Good thing I won't remember that either. You've been listening to the Stubborn German podcast. If you like the show, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and next thing you know, something will pop up, and there'll be another episode. But right now, for Jared Chasson, Chris Ron, and Bryan Schubert, I'm Kevin Ostie saying, Prost.